Couple dates stand out to you. One's probably the beginning of training camp. Second, the NFL draft. We're kind of a unique situation here tonight because my two sons are here. They're twins, but one took the right path as his father, and the other took a dark side. So we've got this family feud that's been going on forever, where we like to talk about football. We're polite to each other, but in reality, if the Packers win and then the Bears lose, that's a perfect day. If the Packers lose and the Bears lose, well, that's okay. And Jay feels the same way in the opposite direction. And of course, for years now, the Packers have pretty much owned the Bears, but things have changed.
So you can tell by the T-shirt that they've memorized.
By the T-shirt.
They have the one good year.
This was the 4th and 8 that changed the tide of the playoff game there.
So we've got the Packers basically blew 2 games, which
See, that's what Packer fans. It's always the Packers did it, not the other team played better. But they did make a lot of mistakes. I think a couple missed field goals in the playoff game, and then
onside kick.
Somebody fumbled the onside kick in that game in Chicago.
Gave me memories of Brandon Bostic for Packer fans out there, but it was pretty disappointing to say the least. Back when the Packers were playing the Broncos going into the third quarter, I legitimately thought the Packers had a shot to win the NFC.
Yeah.
They were looking as good as possible. And then Micah Parsons goes down and a number of other things. And we limped into the playoffs and lost, 5 in a row to end the season?
5 or 6.
Mind-boggling.
And lost 5 games in a row?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't
And for the life of me, just as a regular fan who doesn't know much, I really don't understand why Matt LaFleur still has a job. But I don't think my son agrees with me on that one.
I'm concerned about it, but the team just fell apart, and that does have a lot to do with coaching. So,
And there has been talk about dissension last year, which we don't want to hear that. But let's face it, the Bears had a tremendous season, and Caleb Williams looks like the real deal. And it could be a changing of the guard in the NFC North. But really what we'd like to talk about, at least a little bit about the draft. Because the Packers lost about 10 people off their roster due to free agency and such. And none of these were necessarily superstars, but 10 people. And a lot of those 10 people made significant contributions to the team. And I'm thinking about people like, we lost Ngabara, didn't we?
Yeah,
we lost Ngabara. Quay Walker. We knew we were going to lose Willis. We lost Elton Jenkins, but really I didn't think that he was what he used to be. And Dobbs, of course. We can't, when you're paying Jordan Love and you're paying Micah Parsons, you can't pay everybody. The Bears are in a better position now because their quarterback's making a whole lot less money.
Yeah, when your quarterback's on a rookie deal, that's when you like to kind of start taking those shots on the free agents and all that. So when I think Max Crosby became available in the offseason, so as Bears fans, you probably got pretty excited about it. That wasn't to be, but we still have a decent amount of draft picks to try to keep the thing going in the right direction. So,
well, that's part of the draft. I will say that the Bears had one of those phenomenal seasons with turnovers on their defense. Statistically, I don't think their defense was that great, but they got tons of turnovers. And of course, as Packer fans, we've seen that before too. We'd have a season where we had a tremendous number of turnovers. Doesn't necessarily happen year after year, right?
Yeah, kind of a fluky stat.
They lost some people.
Turnovers is a fluky stat. I mean, you got to be in the right place to get them, which is something there. But yes, it's pretty fluky. I would agree.
And with what I was looking at was, as far as the draft goes, the Packers have, 8 picks?
Yeah.
We've got 8 picks. We don't have a round 1, but personally, I'm okay with that. If you get Micah Parsons as your number 1, now we're not going to have him till when, I don't know when.
I think it's going to be early.
Okay,
He seems like
early.
a fast healer, but maybe.
So the Packers have picks in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round, 2 in the 5th, 6th, and 2 in the 7th. And on the one hand, that doesn't look very impressive, but Brian Gutekunst to me, has done some of his best work in like the fourth and fifth rounds.
Yeah, how do you say that name?
Well, I probably said it wrong.
I don't know. how to say
Goody,
it.
let's call him Goody. Goody has, you know,
All right.
part of this Packer philosophy, I think, is we're going to draft for potential rather than performance. I think that's what we did with Rashawn
I
Gary.
think that's their first round mindset for some reason. Yeah, with Rashad Gary and Lucas Van Ness.
Lucas Van Ness, and Van Ness, I wouldn't say Van Ness is a total disappointment at this point. But
He's an average football player.
average football player, and we used the number one pick to get that. Rashawn Gary had some good time, but then what? He ends up being traded to Dallas.
He was pretty good, but I never thought he was an elite level, which, I mean, but yeah, he contributed quite a bit. And, but yeah, he's tapered off now, and now he's in Dallas.
So I don't think last year we were shocked at his performance because with Micah Parsons on one side, you'd think that you really would get a lot more out of him. He'd have an easier season, but it didn't seem to be that. As far as the Bears draft is concerned, they got a lot better picks. The Bears have a number one pick, or round one pick at number 25. Plus in round two, they pick at 57 and 60.
We got a second round pick for DJ Moore, if you believe that. I was shocked to see that we got a second for him, but
Did
Also
DJ Moore,
happy.
that was to the Bills.
that was to the Bills. Yeah.
So the Bears are getting 3 picks, and the Packers are just getting their first pick, basically, in the second round of 52. So they've got an opportunity to even improve upon those areas of their team that they might think need improvement. I know they've got a lot of areas that they feel they're pretty good in, but, you know, every team has holes. And at least as far as I can see, as an unprofessional person as far as that goes, the Packers need help at the cornerback position. I was just kidding with Jim and said if they run Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Vallon out there at corner again next year, I don't really want to watch the games because I think those guys were not real good. We did sign the free agent cornerback from the Chargers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it can be believed, but I think Pro Football Focus had him as the number 1 rated zone cornerback.
Yeah, I've read good and bad things about him.
So at least we
What is that?
picked up someone.
I think it's good.
I was going to say, I don't have the phone in my pocket.
So we picked him up as a cornerback, but you got to know the Packers are going to be looking at cornerback. And then, of course, we are really good at safety, I think. You know, we can always improve. Safety's good, but they really could use help on the defensive line. They seem to let some young people go that had a lot of potential and sign some older players. That seems to be their way again to do that, trying to manage the salaries and all. And really, I kind of felt at the end of the year that it's amazing we did as well as we did because I think our offensive line underperformed a great deal last year. So whether they'll address that in the draft or try to figure it internally, who knows? But what do you think the Bears' biggest needs are in the draft? What are people saying?
Well, I think most Bears fans would probably say the edge rusher position is a definite need for the Bears. They got Montez Sweat, who's good, and I like what he's done, but you could always improve there. And on the other end, you basically have a whole lot of nothing. I know you got Dio Ogambingo. I'm sure I screwed up that name, but he got signed to a pretty good contract last year and got hurt in week 1 or week 2, so we didn't really see him on the field too much. So who knows really what you have there. I think last year's draft, you drafted not an edge guy. I think Shamar Turner was just a D lineman there, and he was another guy that second round pick, and he got hurt in week 1 or week 2, so you didn't get to see what he could do. So the edge rusher would be probably my number 1, and then just defensive line as a whole would be needed. Would be something that they would need. They got Grady Jarrett, who I would say probably, I mean, he's older now. He's not the same Grady Jarrett he was a few years ago, obviously, but he made some plays, but I think overall it was underwhelming what he did last year. And Tremaine Edmonds, who's gone now, we lost him in the offseason. He had a couple good games there. He actually had a pretty decent stretch, about 3 or 4 games where he played good. He got hurt and then came back and started playing like he did early in the season. So linebacker is also probably need. I know they signed a guy from Cleveland, Devin Bush, who is probably a slight upgrade from Tremaine Edmonds, and re-signed Jack Sanborn, a favorite of mine. I liked what he did with the Bears. He was on the Bears a few years ago. I think he was an undrafted guy, and I thought he played great. I was kind of sad to see him go when they let him go, but he's back, so he can play an off the ball linebacker there. Safety is a need. You lost both safeties. You lost Kevin Byard to the Patriots. He chose Rabel over Ben Johnson. I don't understand that myself, but I know I think he got drafted by the
We're being bothered by
Yeah.
a puppy here.
So
He's trying to get in on the action.
Yeah. I think he got drafted by Rabel when he was with Tennessee, so I guess I can kind of understand that. And Brisker, Jaquan Brisker is off of Pittsburgh now. He was pretty underwhelming as a safety for much of his career. I think personally he had by far his best game as a Bear the last game against the Rams. He played pretty phenomenal in that game in my opinion. So yeah, you probably need to draft a safety. One of the big free agent acquisitions this past year was Kobe Bryant, not the Laker legend Kobe Bryant, but
Which would be difficult.
it would be difficult. R.I.P. But yeah, he was on the Seahawks last year, and a pretty integral part. I know he wasn't the main part, but he was a pretty integral part of how that defense ran. So, and then I think a lot of the stories I've been reading is how they might be in the first round looking for offensive tackle, which is an area of need. You got Darnell Wright, who had a great year last year, I thought, on the right side, but on the left side, you're not quite sure what you have. You have Ozzie Trapillo, who was a draft pick last year, and he played good, but then he got hurt. And I think there's questions on him being ready for training camp. And you re-signed Braxton Jones, which was a bit of a surprise because he actually was demoted for Ozzie Trapillo, and kind of an underwhelming play there as well. So I've been hearing a lot of reports that if there's one of those tackles that's in the draft that they like, they might pull the trigger at pick 25. So we'll see. But with me personally, I'd probably like to see an edge rusher if the guy's there. I know they picked 25, so a lot of the big name guys, I think David Bailey. What's the big one is probably Reuben Bain. He's probably, I don't know how much of you guys have looked at the players in the draft, but he's probably the best all-around football player in this year's draft, in my opinion, Reuben Bain. But there's probably no chance of him being there. Guys that you could see at 25 would probably be T.J. Parker, I think. He played in Clemson. He's an edge guy, and you might be able to see him at 25. Everybody's talking about Zion Young from Missouri, which some Bears podcasts or YouTube videos that I watch do not like him as a first-round pick. If you could somehow slip into the second round, you got 2 second-round picks, and if you can pick him up with one of those 2 picks, it'd be a lot better. So I don't know. I'd either be an edge rusher or maybe a left tackle if one of those guys is available for me. I'd like to see that. But what I think they'll do is the guys that they're looking at may not be available, and you probably would trade down at that point. So you might see a Bears trade there at pick 25 and be able to maybe acquire a little bit more picks. But we'll see tomorrow.
Yeah, you've seen over the years, of course, you've seen a lot of offensive linemen in the later rounds that come out to be terrific careers. That's what concerns me about the Packers. We're thinking, at least from what I've heard, we're going to run, was it Jordan?
Jordan Morgan be the left tackle.
Yeah, and,
right tackle Tom, which he's solid.
So Tom is probably our best lineman right now.
Ryan seemed to solidify the middle somewhat at the end of the season.
The guy we signed from 49ers
Yeah,
was
big question is
underwhelming.
Aaron Banks.
See if she can take the job.
Yeah.
Big question is Aaron Banks, obviously. Had a rough first year in Green Bay. Hopefully he can settle his feet and get comfortable this following year. But I don't think the offensive line is in shambles. You just need just a couple other players. And I think that's what Gutekunst has been good at. is drafting offensive linemen, and the Packers have been good at developing offensive linemen for the most part during the LaFleur tenure. So hopefully that can continue, but I think defensive back for sure, 100%. It really hurts to see Eric Stokes turn around and have a great year in Oakland.
Yeah.
They basically just let him walk and thought he was a lost cause. And he turned around and had a great season.
Well, we liked him a lot as a rookie. He was really good. And then he had some injuries, and Packers stuck with him a year or two. And finally they said goodbye.
Yeah.
And then we picked Nate Hobbs, who was completely underwhelming in a season in Green Bay. And over the years, we've seen that on more than one occasion. We've seen Micah Hyde walk and have a tremendous career in Buffalo. Casey Hayward walked and had a great career out west. So sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen. And then, hey, where would we be today if Jair Alexander hadn't went kind of...
That was big. I mean, that's the one thing they got right. I mean, letting him go when they did appears to have been the right decision.
Appears to have been the right decision. So we've all seen, number one picks that end up being busts and seventh round picks that could probably make it into the Hall of Fame. I don't know. But you never know, but it's still fun to watch and read about these guys. One thing that concerns me, I know in the NFL today, we don't talk too much about how valuable running backs are, but we were not forced, but we let Emmanuel Wilson, our backup running back, go. Seattle, I think. And he really did a lot of good things for the Packers last year. Josh Jacobs is great, but I'm sure they'll find someone. But, you've just got to find the right bunch of people that is going to work in your system.
That's correct, yeah. We still have that Marshawn Lloyd. If he's never not injured, he's
Marshawn Lloyd is one that you get so excited about, and I think he's played like one or two downs in 3 years now?
2 or 3 years.
So sometimes there comes guys into the NFL and they just never make it to the field because of the injury bug. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. You got any thoughts?
It'll be an interesting year. Bears Packers are a rivalry again, it looks like. So
I think you got the Lions and maybe a retool. I don't want to say rebuild because they just had one kind of down year, I guess. I mean, they're a very talented team, but they're probably looking to retool. And I think nobody really ever knows the Vikings. I mean, the year that you think they're not going to be much, and maybe Kyler Murray will come in there and
you never know.
Be a contender. They always have a good defense. So
they got weapons for sure, receivers. So they just need a quarterback to throw him the ball.
And who knows, the kid from Michigan might get his act together, but he had a pretty rough year. And I was thinking that Caleb Williams on the regular part of the game sometimes isn't that impressive, but when it comes down to crunch time and those fourth down plays and so forth, he's amazing, almost like a miracle man. And he doesn't get sacked. The thing about Jordan Love is his regular play is fantastic. He has very few problems, but when it comes to crunch time, I haven't seen him be able to do it in crunch time.
He hasn't stepped up, I will say. Caleb definitely has that it factor when it comes to the end of the game.
I'll say about like the Packers make, and I hate the Packers, so it's hard for me to give them any compliments whatsoever, but they make quarterbacks smart. I mean, my whole life I've seen Favre, Rodgers, and now Love, and that's pretty much the only three, especially in my fandom years where I'm actually paying attention and watching. And you even see it with Love. He doesn't. I mean, maybe they'll disagree because he does throw some silly picks sometimes, but almost all the time he makes smart, right decisions. He knows when to get rid of the ball, and he's a pretty accurate passer of the ball too. And so he's a really good quarterback. But one thing that I saw that's different than what you would the Bears were somehow winning against the Packers in the Rodgers era, specifically. Well, Favre and Rodgers, but specifically Rodgers. I felt like there's still no chance. I mean, Rodgers will win the game. He's going to go down the field. He's going to score a touchdown. Even in that first, I think the the first game we got Khalil Mack in 2018. We were destroying the Packers. It was 20-3 or something like
That's
that.
when he got hurt.
He got hurt.
And he even got hurt, and then he comes back, and it's just insane what he's not just against. It seems like a lot against the Bears, but he did that against everybody. He was he was probably the best quarterback I've ever watched.
Yeah.
As far as the
Something
talent
special.
and ability, he was pretty amazing, and I hate him, but he was pretty amazing to watch. If you're a fan of football, you loved watching that, and Love has a lot of those characteristics. The one thing I'll say is I say he lacks that into the game.
Yeah.
Now I'm not as scared. Although I mean, again, I can't remember if it was the playoff game or the regular. I think it was the playoff game. He did throw a ball that if I don't know if it was Dobbs or somebody else.
Oh, yeah. He threw
Watson,
the ball. If
yeah.
Watson can make a play.
Watson
on
catches
the
that,
Packers win that
and
game.
it seems like he probably should have caught it. I mean, that would have been a touchdown there.
Catchable ball.
So he did do it, but that last play was pretty pathetic. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what
last
he was
one.
doing on that one.
I'm not sure. He didn't even. I mean, I'd rather.
He didn't even attempt to complete it. He just.
I would
dropped
rather
it.
risk an interception. than
Yeah,
throw
that's
that
what I was
play
saying.
out
Just
there.
get your feet set and launch it, and it's the Packers Bears. See, things tend to happen for you guys. Just put it out there and see what happens. But
And that game is kind of a microcosm because in the first half they dominated the Bears, pretty much dominated.
Right.
In the second half, it was like they couldn't block the Bears at all. How does that happen at halftime?
yeah, it was a big change.
It's coaching. It wasn't just the Bears. They blew 10-point leads in the fourth quarter 6 times this year.
6 times. I had
think
no
that's what
idea.
I think 5 or 6. Yeah.
But even as bad as that was, like you just said, Love did lead them down the field as the clock went down, and it looked like you say, one pass away from winning that game.
And it was there.
So
I was holding my breath. I thought for sure this is a touchdown right here. Then I'm watching it. This sucks because this game's over. And
Well-
he didn't catch it, thankfully. But
well, the thing with Caleb, if you left even 30 seconds on the clock, you were afraid that something was going to
the
happen.
things he did this year were pretty. I mean, that Rams touchdown. I think I was in shock. I didn't make. Luckily, all the kids were sleeping, so I didn't scream out. I was such in shock that I just stood there and just watched the TV, like, oh my god! And then, obviously, that happens at the end where the interception. You probably don't need to throw that ball against the Rams, regardless. But I didn't like DJ Moore's effort on trying to get to that either. So.
Maybe that's why he did in Chicago.
Well, he made some great moments that I'll remember for the rest of my life, especially against Green Bay in 2 of those games. But he also had plays like that, which I'm sad to see him go. But we do have some decent receivers. That's another one. I made it with Ben Johnson, kind of manning it as far as the draft goes, manning the deal. You could see. I don't think you'll see the first 2 or maybe even 3 picks be a wideout, but after that, I mean, if there's somebody out there, I wouldn't be surprised at all. His draft last year, well, I guess you could say Ryan Poles' draft, but Ben Johnson had his hands all over on some of those picks. Colston loved him with that first pick. I don't think I won't say any Bears fan, but that definitely wasn't a need of interest for Bears with tight end. You got Cole Kmet, you got offensive line help, you need defensive line help, and you grab a tight end. I think I was upset. I'm sure a lot of other fans were upset, but I mean, I love Colston Loveland now. I mean, he definitely had a great rookie season.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Of course, we love our tight end. Unfortunately, he only played a little over half the season.
He was week 8, week 9.
Week 8, week 9, and he looks like a future fantastic player. So.
The injuries piled up at the end.
And of course, the Bears everybody has injuries. In some respects, that kind of ruins the NFL. I know it doesn't, but when you've got these great players and all of a sudden, boom, 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 they're not there anymore. It really can devastate your season. But I was just thinking, not that it's really germane to what we're talking about, but the number 1 pick. Who is the number 1 pick of the draft going to be? As IU fan, I'm pulling for Mendoza. Mendoza, what a story. A fantastic kid, and the story of IU football last year was out of this world. It sounds like maybe he's number 1, but I certainly wish him well. Any college quarterback going into the NFL, fame and success is not guaranteed, but I hope that Fernando has the tools to have a fantastic career because he's a great kid.
Very true. I think Vegas has him set up pretty well if they do draft him. They got Kirk Cousins as a backup, who seems like a great guy and probably a great person to be a role model and a mentor for him coming into the league. And
That would be a good position, a good setup.
Spent the most money in free agency. That doesn't amount to a whole lot sometimes, but you know they're trying to put a good team in front of them, so it might be a good spot for it. I would be shocked if Mendoza's probably not the first pick of the draft.
Yeah, pretty guaranteed.
I wonder what's going to happen with Jeremiah Love. I haven't seen too many college running backs that looked, I mean, he's just absolutely phenomenal. They say the value of a running back in the NFL isn't what it used to be, but somebody's going to draft that kid, and I think he's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I could see him going 5 to the Giants, maybe. John Harbaugh's first draft. Giants have 2 picks in the top 10, so they can reach on a running back early and still get some offensive line help. So that's interesting. But yeah, he looked like an unstoppable force.
Well, it's kind of interesting if it would be the Giants because they just had, they just let go to the Eagles last year. Saquon Barkley. You follow that up with Jeremiah Love, but who knows what's going to happen. Any final thoughts?
Well, that's just looking forward to it. I always love the draft. I mean, you never know. The Packers could trade in, but otherwise it would just be fun to watch.
It's lots of fun. I love watching the draft every year. I think the only other real story would be where Ty Simpson, the Alabama quarterback, if he would be going in the first round or not. I know that's really the only 2 quarterbacks that I hear about is Mendoza and Ty. This is not a very quarterback-heavy draft by any means. So next year there's supposed to be a lot of good quarterbacks. So
Well, my biggest complaint, if you will, about the draft is they drag everything out so long, but it's all part of the game. They drag it out, advertising and what have you.
It goes a little bit faster now. Once it actually starts, it goes a little bit faster than it used to. But yeah, I love watching it every year. It's fun, mainly because the Bears are usually in the top 10, so it's exciting to see what player will flop for them the following year. But last year we had, what did we get? Loveland, we got Monangai, we had Chapio, we had Luther Burden. I mean, if you get 4 playmaking guys in your offense, they're rookie. I mean, that's probably one of the better drafts I've seen in a long time for the Bears. So hopefully they can build upon that and maybe get those type of players on the other side of the ball and hit 3 or 4 of those guys, and then you might really have something there after that. So we'll see.
Well, for years people have been screaming at the Packers to draft a receiver in the first round. We got Matthew Golden. They didn't really give him a chance, really, I don't think, for whatever reason. But then that last game, he's shown through pretty good. So he's a very talented kid, so we hope that
You should definitely expect a kind of a breakout in year 2, I think. He was underused, probably on purpose. The Packers like to be slow with their draft picks.
that's
Very, very methodical.
That's another the Packer way. So we love the Packers, but we don't have to love everything that goes on.
Yep.
So for Packers and Bears fans, I hope you enjoyed watching this. And we'll see what happens in the draft. And maybe we'll get back and do this again as we get closer to the season. So have a good night, everybody.
All right. Go Pack, go.
Go Bears.
Go Pack, go.